thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing great, man. Not a lot to complain about. I get to tour the world making music and put smiles on people's faces. And what's really cool about what I get to do, Derek, is, I was just thinking about it before I jumped on with you. I was performing with the Beach Boys on July 4th at the Hollywood Bowl. I'm on tour right now with Bret Michaels, Night Ranger, and Jefferson Starship. And then I'm preparing for a tour with Gin Blossoms, Tonic, and Fastball. It's like what my life has become as a fan. Forget being in a band and all of that. I just cannot believe these amazing opportunities I still get to do 25 years past our heyday. So things are going great for me, Derek, in the most roundabout way possible.
And it's crazy because you say it's 25 years, yet you still look exactly the same as I remember you in the 90s. So, how does it feel not to age? Are you a vampire? Is there something we should know about? Or,
well, according to the internet, I had more plastic surgery than Joan Rivers. So that's always an interesting thing to me because my wife's an esthetician, and mind you, Derek, it's not the kind of thing where like, wow, you look great. They go, oh my God, look what he did to his face. It's so disgusting. I'm like, can a guy just gain 25 pounds in peace? I look a little different from 1997. So I laugh out loud at that. I try to take care of myself, Derek. I still probably drink too much. Should eat better, but I do a lot of cardio, just try and stay in shape. And I tint my hair. All right, yes, my magic powers are in my hair. I still got the highlights. I've been waiting for that to come back around again in style. Might be waiting a long time still. So I don't know. I think it's funny. I appreciate their kind words. But yeah, I try to just, I think for me, and there's still I still have an old like Shecky Green showbiz adage that you try and take care of yourself and look the best you can on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hopefully that's still what's happening. But, I guess I'm going to have to get plastic surgery to prove to people I'd never had plastic surgery.
Now, on a more serious note, you made a good point with the 25 years. Your hit single Fly pretty much exploded you guys into the rock atmosphere. Can you take me back to the writing and recording process for that track? And did you have a sense back then that it would become such a hit?
Absolutely not. I hated the first snippet I heard of Fly because in Sugar Ray, a lot of us wrote pieces of songs, we had no Noel Gallagher in the song that brought songs completed and done and you just recorded it. We were kind of like, there was three main songwriters in the band, myself, our guitar player Rodney, who's still in the band, and our former drummer. And we would like write little pieces or, we'd have a DJ in the band. He'd come up with a thing and we just were woodshedding ideas. And when I first heard Fly, it was just this version of what became the chorus over and over going, I just want to fly. And I'm like, oh my God, I quit the band. This is the worst thing I've ever heard. Because mind you, Derek, we were just coming off a tour in Europe, and we were playing with bands like Deftones, Korn, White Zombie. So that was the lane I thought that we were going to be in. We had a little bit of a buzz going in Europe, not much here. We were on Beavis and Butthead. We were on Howard Stern. So we were going to get a chance to make a second record. So I thought we're going to go against the very thing that we sort of got a little bit of a lane. This is pre-rap rock, mind you, though. Yeah. We were kind of rap rocking. So I just go, boy, this is, we don't really write songs like this, And I remember calling my best friend, still my best friend, who did all our videos, McG. He's this guy, his legendary video figure. He did all of our videos, Smash Mouth videos, Offspring, Korn videos, really painted the landscape of MTV in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s. And he goes, I've heard it, man. It's not that. I know what you're talking about, Mark. I heard it's a little not really in your lane, but what are you going to do? Quit and come home? And go work it, that this is your shot. Don't self-sabotage it. Go back and see if you can do anything with it. Write some verses. Be positive, do something. So I wrote a couple of verses to it. I wrote what became the first and second and the third verse. And it started shaping up a little bit, but to be honest with you, I still didn't think it was much. You know what I mean? We brought it back down into my voice, something that was like, it was all right. But other people were excited about it. Now, our guitar player, Rodney, by now had added the riff, and I'm like, that's kind of rap. That's cool. Yeah. So it was starting to take a little bit shape, and I thought it was strong. I didn't think it was a giant hit. until David Kahne got a hold of it. Now, David Kahne was our producer that did all of the hits, Every Morning, Fly, and he had just come off the success of Sublime's What I Got.
Oh, okay. Man.
Now, we all look back at Sublime with rose-tinted sunglasses and go, oh my God, they were so amazing. But I remember when we would see Sublime play live, and if they showed up at all,
yeah,
it would be a 95-minute dub jam, like bump, 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 bump. It was hard to see the genius through the malaise and the insanity of Sublime. But when I heard that song, I went, wow, that's incredible. And I'm not saying Fly was even near anywhere or is anywhere near a Sublime song. But after hearing what he did, What I Got, we reached out to David. He heard the song Fly and said, this was a really good song. There's something there. So then I started believing in it, Derek. So I think I'm going again with the most roundabout way of telling you, no, I hated it. Almost quit the band when I first heard the initial, I don't even want to call it it was the initial part of what became Fly. So it took a lot of reworking and making it happen. And then adding David Kahn's vision, it was finally done. And when it was completely done, I said, it's not done yet. And then I reached out to Supercat, who happened to be signed by David Kahne when David Kahne was working at Columbia. So all this perfect storm of things happened. The Supercat came in, recorded his parts, and I go, oh, this is really good now. This might have a chance, but I think it was number one. No, I never did until it was finally released and went to number one. So that song was such a blessing and went through so many incarnations. And I'm grateful that, I'm talking to you today because of that song, Derek, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned McG because, in researching your story, I know that after you dropped out of Shrinky Dinks, before Sugar Ray really broke through, you unfortunately dealt with a pretty severe depression, and you were also kind of insecure about your voice at the time. And I understand that McG really, played an important role in helping you overcome that. What was that journey like? And are you still insecure about your voice, or have you grown comfortable in your own skin?
Well, and I'll answer that right away. No, I'm completely insecure about it. I don't understand how I got a career. I mean, I had the worst voice in the band. What was grateful for me is that David Kahne showed me where my voice was. On our first record, Lemonade and Brownies, I'm rap rocking, I'm singing like Bon Scott, screaming and yelling, I'm punk rocking, I'm doing all this stuff because I didn't know where my voice was. I was singing in falsetto in some songs. Yeah. I think what David Kahne did to me is said, look, Mark, I got some good news and bad news for you, dude. The bad news is you can't sing. This is the producer of our record. And I went, what could possibly be the good news, bro? He goes, you have a tone in your voice where if you stay within your speaking voice, I think we can craft something where I can show you where your voice is and we can sell 2 million copies off this song Fly. And I'll be damned. That's what I got. Calgon, take me away. What are we going to do? What do we do? So he showed me where my voice was, and I'll be damned if we didn't sell 2 million copies off of Fly. So he was instrumental, David Kahne, in showing my voice. McGee was more of a cheerleader of our band and ourselves. And he was the guy, come on, you guys can do it. You've got this and that. But McGee couldn't sing either. So he had no idea where my singing voice was going to be. But he was a huge part of, he acted kind of as a manager, as a fifth member. And really, McGee's a guy that makes you believe in yourself. So he was instrumental in that. And he was also a guy that said, look, I think you should go back to the Shrinky Dinks. And we got signed as the Shrinky Dinks, and we had to change our name to Sugar Ray. So he was instrumental in me and going, go back and, see if you could, the Shrinky Dinks, there's something there. And he goes, there's a visual thing, there's something happening there. So he was extremely important in that. And he was around on some of the songwriting, and he's a good idea guy. That sucks. That's not good. He's not a musician. He's not a songwriter. But we included him in some of the songwriting because his ideas were very, important to, manifesting the songs, if I can say it in any other way. But yeah, no, I've been insecure about my voice, always will be, and never won't be, because Robin Wilson from the Gin Blossoms, incredible voice.
Yeah.
Miles from Fastball, Tony from Fastball, incredible voice. Emerson Hart from Tonic, incredible voice. So you're seeing what I was dealing with the competition back then. They're all my friends now. They're all very, complimentary towards me. But I was people were getting signed because their voice was great. We got signed because someone thought the visual video that we sent, there was something there.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? I was never been told my voice was good. And I've been told I've got a tone which is fantastic. Plenty of people have made a career out of the tone. What is Bob Dylan, Anthony from the Chili Peppers? So it can be done. It's a hard way to go, and you've got to trust people, and you've got to have a village. But yeah, it will always be the bane of any success. I'm the first one to make fun of my voice and say I can't really sing. First one to do it, you know?
And of course, with getting this immense success, you also met a lot of fans over the years. What would you say is your most memorable fan encounter that made you realize the impact that your music has had on people's lives?
Extremely easy to remember. I've had many wonderful ones, and people have told me many wonderful stories of what the songs mean to them. And, you know, whether it was a wedding or first time they kissed a girl or kissed a boy or whatever it was, these wonderful like moments. And I have those songs that mean that much to me. Whether it's an Orleans song, Dance With Me, you know, once you become part of people's lives, if it's a novelty song, if it's a Beatles song, it's their song. It's so important to them. So I have so many great stories around that. But one story really will always stick out with me. It was after 9/11. And it was probably about 6 months after, and I'm flying on a plane to San Francisco. And a girl walks by me and drops a note. And I look at the note, and it says, "Please don't read until you get off the plane." So I wanted to respect her wishes. I wanted to read the note so badly, but I didn't. So I get off the plane. I open the note, and it says, "Dear Mark, you know, I won't say her name publicly because you'll know why in a second. I lost my husband in Tower 2 at the World Trade Centers. And, you know, Fly was a huge song that we loved together and we sang a lot. And I have been reluctant. Now, she wrote this on the plane because obviously she didn't know that I was going to be on the plane. She goes, "I've been reluctant to fly because of the 9/11. I lost my husband. It's been a devastating 6 months for me. But seeing you on this plane and how much that I love the song Fly and I love your band, I know it's I'm going to cry thinking about it. I know it's my husband looking out for me." Sorry, dude.
That's all right, man. That I'm getting choked up thinking about that.
He goes, "You know, I know it's my husband looking out for me because I'm so scared to fly. I'm terrified, but I want to see my family. And you being on this plane is a message from him." And man, this is over 20 years ago, and it has such a profound effect on me. And power of music, bro. You know, it's why we keep doing it. Why I still love music, and it just that touched me so deeply that day. It still does and still resonates, and I'm just so grateful that I was there for her, and whatever it was, that the music means that much to her, man, and it could provide her just a memory and a lovely memory, because it's been tough for her in those 6 months, you know, and it's just it was just so impactful, you know, and so that's it. I don't know if there'd be a bigger fan interaction. I don't even want to call it a fan interaction. That was a human interaction, you know.
Yeah,
their songs meant something too much to them when they were alive, and even more in his passing, you know. And if you are lucky enough to touch people like that, man, you know, these songs become property of the universe, and it's rarefied air. And I'm just grateful that the music meant that much to her and comforted her, you know.
Yeah, man. Music heals so many wounds, and I'm so grateful that you were there for her. You know, I turned to music after 9/11 as well. You know, I'm 37, so I was a 15-year-old homeschooled kid watching the TV, failing to understand how this could happen in our world. And we can all say that the world's kind of gotten a little uglier since then, but I feel like 9/11 was the turning point. And it was one of those things where, you know, as a 15-year-old kid, you know, you struggle to think, like, how can people do this? And my outlet and what helped me was music, you know.
Sure.
You know, I'm not just asking you to be on my podcast because your publicist wrote me. I'm a fan. You know, I was listening to Sugar Ray with my dad in the late 90s and early 2000s. So yeah, your song was one of the songs more than likely that cheered me up during that time. Linkin Park, other bands like that. You know, music heals. Music heals.
God bless. And I hope you know how much that means to me, dude, hearing that as a songwriter, you know, because you write these songs, you know, that they mean something to you, and you try to have a universal quality to it. And if our music ever gave you any comfort or joy, Derek, our job is done, man. That means the world to me. And just to tag that 9/11 thing, the craziest part of all that the U.S. government tried to ban songs.
Yeah.
And Fly was one of the songs they want to ban.
Because it has the word fly in it. Yeah.
They have Fly. And we also saw a song called When It's Over at the time they wanted to ban. This stuff that's really healing. I'm proof positive it was. So, it just shows we all were just so confused after that. I think that's such an insightful thing that you said, that a lot of the soul of America died that day. I think that's almost stating the obvious. And I think there's almost a pre and post 9/11 world we live in, and you're admitting that, you're saying that, and so am I. And I've seen it proof positive.
So this is another one of the quirky questions similar to the first question I asked you. In the topic of your own personal interest, you are clearly a great trivia enthusiast, having absolutely dominated on Rock and Roll Jeopardy. What is your favorite bit of either historical or pop culture trivia that you think many people wouldn't know?
Oh man, that's a really good one. That's a really, really, really good one. You're gonna have to give me a second, because there was one I was thinking about the other day, well, I mean, there's a lot, dude. There's a whole. One of my favorite ones is that Joan Jett produced the first Germs album. I just love that.
Yeah.
A lot of people because we're Joan Jett, where she became, and like what the Germs and what that record sounded like. I love that part of trivia. There's a million others of guys that were in bands you weren't think they were in. I also love stuff like, who's the member of NWA on the NWA record that's not in NWA? There's like the Arabian Prince was in there. I've just got a whole bunch of weird ones that come to mind. But do you have something in mind? I feel like you do.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot here. You're still here, so let's cross some fingers.
And from my memory, I think it lasts about 45 seconds, then it goes away. So let's make it a great 45 seconds.
Yeah, let's make a great 45 seconds. Yeah.
I have faith this time, though. Derek, I think we're all going to be good.
So it's actually kind of funny. Last time when we were speaking, we were talking about funny trivia and information that we had to share. And it was funny. Right before this began, I actually heard something really funny that I thought I'd share with you to start it off with some laughs.
Please.
Did you ever hear of the backstory behind the Backstreet Boys' The Call? Did you ever hear about that one?
The Backstreet Boys, The Call?
Yeah. Did you ever hear about the secret behind that song?
No, I'm not even familiar with the song. Forgive me.
Okay. So
it wasn't a hit, was it?
It was. So they were working with Max Martin, who's this big time producer, did, Hit Me Baby One More Time and all those big hits. Legend. And he divided the harmony into the different parts for all the band members. Well, apparently this song was in the top 100. And during the recording of Howie's part, he got so into his performance that he actually passed gas in the booth. But
come on.
No, I'm not kidding you. But here's the best part. According to them, according to the Backstreet Boys, it was not only on key, but on beat. So they freaking lost it. They're laughing. Most producers are like, okay, shit happens, right? They'll go ahead and delete it. What does Max Martin do? He remixes it into the bass line of the fucking song.
No way.
No way. I'm not kidding you. So according to the Backstreet Boys, this huge song that has been, one of their bigger songs. So if you listen closely enough, you'll hear like a wah. It's a fucking fart.
I love that bit of trivia, man.
Oh my God.
I'm ashamed I don't know the song, because the Backstreet Boys run was similar to parallel to ours. You know what I mean? So I've always been a fan. I've never had a problem with boy bands, or Max Martin's a genius to me. I mean, he wrote one of the best songs ever, and I want it that way. I mean, that's such a perfect piece of pop perfection. So the call, it doesn't I'm sure I know the song, just the title is not, it's title. Like all the songs are like Backstreet's Back, I want it that way. That the Shape of My Heart. Like I know every song. The call does not It doesn't do anything for it.
I'll be realistic with you. It's not on the I Want It That Way or Backstreet's Back level of fame. It's one, it's still charted because, come on, it's the fucking Backstreet Boys. But,
Yeah.
It wasn't one of their bigger songs, but it was just more funny knowing that was being played on the radio. And until, AJ decided to sell them out a couple years ago in an interview, they were laughing to themselves knowing that they had this little secret while these radio stations were playing.
But it makes the Backstreet Boys seem really cool to me. It gives them a sense of gravitas they might never had before. They can make fun of themselves, or so much so that they could cut and mix and include a fart into a hit song. That to me is guys that it gives me a real band feeling. A lot of these bands, a lot of them were sort of manufactured, but the Backstreet Boys, yes, they came together a certain way, but listen, they never stopped performing.
Yeah.
They never took a break. Yeah, Kevin was out for a little bit, but they never stopped. They've always been doing great business, and they turned into a real band. And I think the Backstreet Boys have the last laugh on everybody.
Oh, I agree, and it's one of those things where it's NSYNC versus Backstreet Boys. I'm on the BSB train, and some people will probably hate me for that, but it's exactly the reason that you said, because of the fact that they are in many ways a real band. Like, they come up with a lot of their own lyrics, they come up with the harmonies themselves. Like, not saying that NSYNC doesn't do that, but I feel like BSB is more of a band, so to speak.
Real quickly, you asked me about a trivia thing, and I learned a piece of trivia I wanted to share with you. That's something I find fascinating. Do you know what the first record that was awarded a platinum certification was or is?
Oh, God. If I remember right, it's a totally unexpected one. Go ahead.
No, it's not. It's like the most expected one, because they were selling so many records in the 70s, because they had to come up with a new term, much like we did in the 90s. We had to have a diamond certification. So the first record that went platinum was the Eagles' greatest hits, 1971, 1975. And it is, to this day, the greatest selling record of all time. So I think it's ironic that not only was it the first platinum record, it's the best selling record of all time. So that's a fun just a quick little trivia tidbit that I know you asked me, and I go, I got to save that for next time,
Oh, my God. Oh, and what was the one more? Hold on. I'll give you one more here.
Yeah.
After
please.
I got off the phone with you, I was actually looking these up so I could give you some of these. Here we go. Here it is. Mark Wahlberg has a third nipple.
Yes.
So you knew that one.
No, that I knew. Yeah. No, that's and it's a real nipple. It's like right below. It's a real third nipple. Totally. Yeah, I did know that. Which is fun.
It was like I was like, what is the weirdest one I could get? And that was originally what I was going to lead off with. And then I heard that with the Backstreet Boys. I'm like, that's going to take its place.
Well, they're both great. I had not heard the Backstreet Boys one, so that's illuminating to me. And for those listening who don't think, if you look up Mark Wahlberg's third nipple, you will see an image there.
Yes. Was there ever any funny and hilarious moments in the studio for you guys? I mean, I don't think you recorded a fart into a song, but was there any funny memories you had while recording a song?
I think any band will tell you there are moments of delirium in studio where you just kind of lose your mind. I imagine much like on compelling reality TV, like I was on Big Brother, and it was the crushing hours of boredom that made everybody do something stupid or something silly.
Yeah.
So there were many, many hours in the studio of laughing, of jokes, of pranks, practical jokes. Any band worth its salt, or that's certainly a band, will have gone through that. Can I remember anything particular off the top of my head? No, but I remember laughing a lot, but I was never a studio guy. I'm not the guy that goes in there for 14 hours. I'm not good at staying in a dark room with no windows with 15 smelly dudes talking about a chord change for an hour and a half. I've never been good at that. I write outside the studio when I'm driving. What I'm not trying to write is when I write. That's the irony of my songwriting. It just comes out, oh, it's a good lyric. Ooh, that's a good melody. But yeah, I mean, you're just, especially when the alcohol comes out and stupid things happen. I just remember more good times than anything like hilarious popping out. Like, that someone brought in a guy dressed in a gorilla suit. No, nothing of that, Derek, but just, certainly a lot of laughs, because the delirium brings the laughs and the insanity.
And it's kind of funny because what I loved, one of the answers from the part one of this that I thought was amazing, is just how off the rails you went when talking about Fly, about how much you just absolutely fucking hated the first version of it. So it was one of those things where, it's been a while. I think the last time I actually listened to the first record was a couple years ago. So I went ahead and after the interview sat down and listened to it again. And it's just so bizarre how completely different that album is in some ways from everything that followed. You know, obviously there was some clues and some hints of what was to come. But my question is, obviously, as you said, like Fly and everything that came after that was kind of a huge stylistic change for you. I was always wondered, have you guys ever talked as a band about maybe kind of returning to the roots of the first album on a future record?
You know what we've done some shows in the past as the Shrinkinix, meaning
Nice.
like, you know what you're going to get. Even though the Shrinkinix never really had music, we kind of discussed this. We had 2 original songs, and we were not songwriters. You know, we were certainly a band that played cover, we were a cover band, and we got signed to Atlantic Records. So now, careful what you ask for. I think I said it last time. We got to make a record. Now, we had a lot of great influences. We kind of went over this last time, from the Germs to X, the Beastie Boys, Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Beatles, Beach Boys. You had boys in your name. We probably were a big fan of your band. And so, and then we reached out to DJ Lethal from House of Pain because we thought he produced Jump Around to make a record. So we didn't know what the hell we were doing. So what you kind of hear is, 5 guys in a candy store eating all the candy and throwing it up against the wall, literally, and seeing what happened. From that, we were looking for a sound, a style, an anything, Derek. And what we knew we weren't was a grungy, look at your shoes, Seattle band. That was always very clear. Now, that was very in vogue at the time there in 94. So we knew we couldn't try that. What else is there? There's many influences we were grabbing onto. We were a band hanging on for dear life, being signed to a major label.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I mentioned last time, through that, we toured that first record for about a year and a half. So we got better. If it's your job to tour and write and play music, the idea is that hopefully you get better as a songwriter and a musician. Well, we did. And as those things happened, we went, hell, what does a D7 chord do? Hey, you're not Beatles Bridge. Like, would that be so crazy to try that? Oh, how about writing a song that means something to somebody? Because for some reason, if we wrote a love song or something, we would make fun of each other. Like, oh, easy there, lover boy. You know what I mean? Like, heaven forbid we write a lyric that someone could grasp onto or have some universality to. And that's why when I first heard Fly, now I know it almost sounds sacrilege to say I hated it when I first heard it. But you have to hear it. I think they destroyed all the original inclinations, the genesis of Fly. It was a falsetto voice singing, I just want to, and it wasn't even like a melody. And it was just, it was unlistenable. So I wasn't alone in hating it, but I was alone in some people thinking that there was something there. So I had to go back and take a look at it. And I was able to create the verses, and David Kahne, again, I will always never not give him the props he deserves, really had the production value to Fly that made it the hit that it is. But yeah, we never just thought like, let's get back to something harder. And as you get older, like when Fly hit, I was 27 years old. I was not a young man in terms of the music game. I was an older man. We were lucky to get signed. So as we got into your 29, 30, we're making Florida. Even the Florida's our heaviest record for sure. It's way heavier than Lemonade Brownies as a whole, though it does have Fly on it, which was the anomaly. So I think when we got Fly, we received the success of Fly, getting the platinum records, being flown around private jets, being able to pay for our car insurance for the first time. We're like, this is kind of fun. We love all kinds of music. We wrote a song that people like. Let's stay in that lane a little bit and see what happens. And luckily, people weren't sick of it yet. We were kind of, that rap hip hop foundation with acoustic guitars. That was it was a fresh idea then. Now it's been done to death. But with David Kahne's productions and the songs we were writing, it had not been mined. The well had not been mined yet. So we had no problem collectively, not even talking about it. Just, going to where the shiny penny was, literally and figuratively. So let us write every morning and Sunday. And by my age, yes, I loved punk rock growing up, but I loved the Beatles. I loved the Beach Boys. I loved Willie Nelson. I loved Frank Sinatra. That talent was just not within us. We just did what we could. And as we got better, it led us to writing better songs. And better songs don't mean you're going to start writing down-tuned corn songs. For me, it meant writing more melodic songs that might mean something to people.
Now, of course, you mentioned quite a few of your other amazing hit songs while you were talking about that. My question is, sometimes you write a song that you're really, really in love with, that you think, man, this is really going to resonate with people. And then sometimes that doesn't always happen. Has there ever been a song that you guys had on an album where you were like, damn, I wish people would have responded to that better. I think that should have been a bigger hit.
There's at least 4 of them I can think of, and a lot of them, there's a song called Live and Direct on 1459 that KRS-One blessed us with his presence on, the mighty KRS-One, one of the legends of hip hop. When we finished Live and Direct, I was like, ooh, this feels like a fly. This feels like an every morning, between us taking our 90% songwriting wise and it being done and finished in the studio, it lost its something. It lost the intangible that makes something great. Now, that doesn't always mean like, when something's going to be a hit. I thought Fly was a great song. I didn't think it was going to be number 1 around the world. I did. I'll be the first to admit that, but it also probably comes from my original sentiment of the song. And also because of how I thought our band was, I never thought our band was capable of writing a number 1 song. This little mediocre band from Newport Beach, California, up there with the big leagues, looking at Mariah Carey, Sugar Ray, and like beyond that was impossible. So, it's hard to predict what a song's success was, but I thought Live and Direct could have been better. I think it just got lost in the sauce in terms of when we produced it. The Live and Direct we released, I don't think it could have been what was going to be a hit. But the one that we brought into the studio should have been a completely completed song that I loved. I think should have been a hit. It's a little bit of a departure from us. If you only notice from the radio songs, there's a song called Waiting on her self-titled record. Reminds me very much of like a Stone song, if I can be so bold, a Replacement song, just something. There's such an emotive quality in that. When I first heard that, I go, this song rules. Because when I played it for my then girlfriend, my now wife, she started crying when she heard it.
Oh,
and she was a tough cookie, and so I thought Waiting for sure could have been something that could have done better. A song we did release as a single that did do as well as I thought it was going to do was a song called Chasing You Around off our record In the Pursuit of Leisure. It was the second single off that record. And I think, Derek, to be honest, at that time in 2003, the shine had gone off the diamond of bands like us. So I don't think it got the chance at radio that it might have had if it was released in 2099, but I really love that song. It's about our guitar player who was the first one in our band to have a kid chasing his 2-year-old son around. So there's a lot of meaning in that one. And another one that jumps off my head off our last record we did off Lil Yachty is a song called Good Good Lovin', which is a song we did with Harry Fraud, who is the son of our former manager, Chip Quigley, a legendary dude, a guy his ears in tune with the ground, especially in underground hip hop. He's probably the biggest producer who nobody knows his name, really. Harry Fraud has produced every one of your favorite hip hop artists, I promise you. So he brought this incredible track to us that we had our Sugar Rayness to it. Yeah. And it was the biggest stream song off our album. People found it on their own. I think it has 4 million streams or something, which is not a lot, but for us, it's a lot compared to the other songs that were on that record. So I think Good Good Love, and just recently was a song I think it could have done a lot better. And I'm talking about contemporary radio. I think could have sat nicely in some of the songs we were hearing in that summer of 2019. Yeah.
And I think really what might have hurt that is that it was released shortly before the pandemic hit. So,
yeah,
you guys had your touring impacted by that. Do you feel like maybe looking back that the pandemic might have had a hand in why, some of those things might have not been as big as you wanted to? Do you think the pandemic might have impacted it?
I would love to blame it on the pandemic and hide behind that and say, yeah, that's why, this record didn't go multi-platinum. In terms of selling records or even getting on the radio, we knew where we stood. I was on Celebrity Big Brother. Once I got out, we had the opportunity to make a record with BMG, and that's what we did because we're musicians and songwriters. That's what we do. And when you get a chance to release your songs in a bigger platform, we're going to do it. There was no anticipation. There was no sort of hope for this record. We said, if people want it, there's going to be a new Sugar Ray record out, and hopefully we'll add a couple songs to the live show. And they can hang with some of those big hits. You got to hang with those hits from Sugar Ray. And we were able to do that very thing. So, no, I would never be, so bold or misconstrued to blame it on the pandemic. The record probably did exactly. In fact, I think Good Good Lovin' did more than it probably, than we thought it could have. And I'm glad that people found it. Shows like this, Derek, hopefully people will take a look back and go, well, let me check that out. Sugar Ray and Harry Fraud, I'm interested.
Or like Waiting, let me listen to that again. And by the way, that was a standout track for me when I listened to it. So Kind
Oh,
of agree with
was all good, man.
So I kind of agree with your sentiment. You know, let's be honest. People start a band because they like music, but in the back of their mind, there's always that hope. Well, man, I hope I can afford a nice car, or maybe I can afford to feed my family. And then all of a sudden, wait a minute, I got a huge mansion. I'm on Celebrity Big Brother. You know.
You know what I mean, Derek? You're so right. And every band starts out like that. I don't care what you say. You know, especially bands of my generation, older. We were raised on Kiss. You know, they were a comic book come to life in arenas. And a lot of people that got into bands like myself, their first show was Kiss. You know, the makeup, they were 10, 11. It ruined their minds, just like the first Star Wars did to all of us. So we were chasing these dreams. I don't care if you're Eddie Vedder or, you know, Eddie Leeway or Eddie Spaghetti from the Super Suckers. We were all chasing that dream. Some of us just got to it in different worlds. And I would never look back, Derek. I know we discussed it. It's fun to look back and say, hey, what are the coulda, woulda, shoulda songs? But man, this band got more than we deserved. We've received more than we deserved. And I'm still happy after all these years. I'm getting more than I deserve after all these years, you know? So it's hard to be bitter about anything, but it is interesting to look back and go, hey, what if that song could have done better, you know?
And the opportunities you got from it, you know, you keep mentioning Celebrity Big Brother. It makes me think of how, especially you as the front man, you know, you're not just in the music world. You've appeared in the Scooby-Doo movie, if I remember correctly. You were on Celebrity Big Brother. You hosted a variety of TV shows. My question is, if you can just think about all the non-music or music-related things that were in the entertainment sphere, what is your favorite experience outside of making music with Sugar Ray?
That's easy because I was there the longest and built such wonderful friendships, long-lasting friendships. Met some of the hardest working people I've ever met, and that was working at Extra. You know, as you mentioned, when you are in a successful band and you can chew gum and walk at the same time, there are opportunities afforded to you.
Yeah.
And one of those was Extra. And I think we touched on it a little bit last time, Derek. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But, you know, after In the Pursuit of Leisure, the record I said, 2003, they kind of let us all know, well, the shine is off the diamond. And, you know, you being a relevant band is over. What's next for this phase of Sugar Ray? There was some of the guys in our band didn't want to tour and make another record. They had some young kids that wanted to slow down a little bit. I totally understood. I'm like, what am I going to do for 6, 7 months a year or whatever this is? There's some calls to be made, and one was to Extra. Long story short, I made a call to Extra. 2 weeks later, I'm hosting the show on a national platform. I had no idea what I was doing. I was terrified to death. But watching these people work and put together these shows, you got to know when Extra or Entertainment Tonight or any of these entertainment news shows, when they walk in that morning, there's no show at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
They have to put together a show, curate a show, put the packages together, and be working in real time if something topical goes down. So I was watching the producers, the segment producers, the directors, the host, the makeup, everybody on the staff just worked their ass off. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was all like frilly and pompy and circumstancy. I didn't know there was hard work, like journalistic work going on in these shows. And it's such a cutthroat business. If you're not on your A game every day, you're going to get left behind. So I learned the value of hard work, and I learned the value of friendships and people having your back. You know, rock and roll is we get treated like, you know, the bitches we are on rock and roll. Let's be honest, you know. In Extra, there was no pat you on the back. It was all, well, you know, all right, that day's done. What's going to happen tomorrow? You know, and I just admired their hard work, and I miss so many wonderful people that I still have friendships with today. So I was there for 4 years, from 2004 to 2008. And I would say that was my most valuable experience, Eric, looking back, because it was a challenge to me. I was terrified of doing it. I almost turned back the first day. I didn't want to do it. In fact, my first week, and I'll let you know a little nugget. I never told anybody. My first week, I called my agent. I told him I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too much. And by the way, they made a huge commitment to me. There was a huge rollout. You know, they're already on salary. You don't just change your host during like a week because he doesn't want to be. Luckily, you know, people that are smarter than I talked to me and said, stick it out for a year. And some of those people worked at Extra. And there was a girl there named Lisa G there who brought me in and was my mentor there and really believed in me. And so I just, that was the most valuable experience because I had to learn something new, Derek. But I wasn't afraid of learning something new because I had to learn to sing after we signed for the Atlantic Records. And I was not afraid of failing in front of people, millions of people. So I had that going for me.
And I love how you're being so open with lessons that you've learned. If you got to think, I mean, obviously that's one of them, but What would you say has been some of the most like formidable challenges that you faced during your career and some of your biggest lessons learned?
Well, there's been like, tactile challenges or like, day of or situational challenges, like performing live on David Letterman was the anxiety facing that. I'm going out to sing, and like, as I mentioned, I've got a tone. I'm not really a singer. So like there was such a heavy burden on me the entire run of Sugar Ray being a commodity for a record label because I was the voice, and the voice is a muscle and you get sick and all that, or your anxiety takes over. So I was always fighting the challenge of hoping my voice was okay. On Howard Stern at 5 o'clock in the morning, singing our songs, doing the Today Show. And when you sound check at 3:30 in the morning. So there's always these live challenges that were constantly being thrown at me that constantly reinforced my insecurities as a performer and a singer. So I think those challenges hardened me up and gave me the wherewithal and the chutzpah, if you will, to get on stage and just like, it's don't let anybody steal your joy from you. You know what I mean? And when I feel really got a lot of like sympathy for the kids of today because social media is a killer. It's a killer for me, but I've got the tools to handle outside negativity. I always have. I was a breakdancer in high school. That was a rockabilly guy. I've always been doing things maybe considered lame that weren't cool. So it's just, I've never been cool. I'm a guy that takes chances and every now and then backs into something cool, But I just hope people realize, especially kids, like, don't let people steal your joy because the challenges are always going to be hard. They're never full of joy. You got to punch through that challenge to get to the joy. And I hope social media just, I hope it just doesn't take away from the next Brad Pitts, the next Eddie Vedders of the world. They just didn't give it a chance, because you're afraid of a minority of people that have a loud voice on a certain platform. But I know I'm digressing a little bit. But yeah, Extra was certainly a challenge. Writing another record after a successful record is a challenge to any band's ever done it. And I think if there aren't continuous challenges and you're just kind of like, okay, we feel good, the bills are paid, that's when you lose your creative spark. And I can show you 95% of the bands that have done that. You start getting a couple platinum records under your belt, you start saying, my shit doesn't stink, I can do whatever I want. You lose that hunger. And the second you lose that, there is a new band, whether it's the Strokes or Interpol or whoever, that is dying, Maroon 5, that is dying to take away your place because you lost the edge. So it's interesting how that works. But one thing that I learned that's always going to be applicable to anything you do is be nice to people. Be nice. It's a lost commodity. It's almost an antiquated way of thinking, remembering names, doing the little things that the others won't do. Write a thank you letter in pen. These things, I know they sound, hey, old man, get off my lawn type things. But man, these things have given me $1 million deals. And I say that looking you straight down Broadway in the camera. So, be nice to people. Don't ever lose your nice edge. Don't ever do that because there's going to be a lot of sharp edges out there that will just turn people off. And when you walk in there with your kindness and manners, it goes a long way. I've been teaching my kids that very thing. Doesn't mean you're going to be a billionaire. It does mean you'll have a good life. I promise you.
And hey, man, never apologize for digressing or think that you're an old man. I absolutely fucking adore that you say that. I got this impression from the first time I was talking to you and now today, you come across as somebody who like loves with their whole heart. What would you say are some like the most special things and moments in your life? What are some things that you always take the time to cherish and not take for granted?
Of course, Derek, I love to be this perfect, loving person that understands everything and handles every situation with aplomb and grace in class. I don't, I get short-tempered. I take things for granted like my wife did. I shouldn't. But I think what I can sort of like, get a little bit of consolation on is the fact that like, I can stop and go, oh, you're being that guy again. You know what I mean? And so I can sort of reset the mind frame and then go back, hey, honey, I love you. And just a little random moments of like, not to say, just flowers, a little something nice. And these little things that we all can do really go a long way. But there's been so many moments Derek, I mean, just, you know, you have to put it in like segments for me. I've got a best friend who I've been best friends with for over 50 years. His name's McG. It's one of my most valuable possessions. And I say possession because you couldn't buy it off me. If you offered me $1 billion to take away my best friend and all my memories, I wouldn't even buy it. I'd laugh at you, because that's what life's about. Stacking memories with people that you love and care about, whether they're good or bad. You know what I mean? Because the bad helps you really appreciate the good. You look back and then you add to the sanctity of whatever relationship you're having. So I think, you know, there'd be so many good moments with my friend McG. I've got other dear friends, Almond, Rodney, and my band, but it's been wonderful. I love my wife. We've been together almost 30 years. You know, it's been up and down too. We haven't been saints. I'm going to tell you that right now. But, you know, I've got these beautiful kids. I got more than I deserved in the record business. We sold 10 million records, couple number ones. I still get to do something around the world. In the last month, I think I told you, I was on stage with the Beach Boys, the Hollywood Bowl. I was on stage with Billy Idol, DMC, and Sebastian Bach. And then a week later, I'm on stage with Jefferson Starship, Night Ranger, Brett Michaels. Now, that is the most diverse art. I mean, I dare anybody to try to be able to do that. So I find myself being grateful every day, Derek, you know, and it's not hard to wake up and go, wow, man, you know, everybody's healthy, you know, the bills are paid, and I do something I love, and my calendar is full. Yeah. You know, bro? So there's just so many moments of joy that it's hard to really quantify it. You know, but there's also, like, you know, materialistic moments. When I received a gold record in Atlantic Records from Ahmet Ertegun was amazing. When I was walking in an airport, I saw my face on the Rolling Stone magazine. I'm like, could someone go to Six Flags and do that, you know, Time Minute of the Year thing at the kiosk and put it up there? It was I get goosebumps thinking about it now. So there's been so many wonderful moments of joy. I've tried to stop and smell the flowers with all of them because, like I mentioned, Derek, I was a little older when the success happened, and I'd seen people come up the mountain and back down the mountain in a year and a half. Yeah. And I'm like, that was it? So I've tried to be as gracious and as grateful as I could possibly be.
And I love how you can seamlessly fit in with so many different bands and so many different types of artists. You know, you were comparing it to your voice, and you were being a little detrimental to yourself when you did it, but you were talking about all your compadres in the 90s that you've been lucky enough now to tour with. Is there any bands that came up around that time, or even any artist that you always wanted to do something with, touring, collaborating, you never did, and that you still hold out hope that sometime in the future you can do something?
Yeah, that's a great question, Derek. There's the fantasy artist, and then there's like the possibility artists, you know. We've been blessed to really tour with amazing bands, like the Goo Goo Dolls, Matchbox 20. We've opened for Kiss. We've opened for the Sex Pistols. We opened for the Rolling Stones. You know, so it'd be hard for me to go like, ooh, I need more. But, you know, I always loved the Red Hot Chili Peppers. We actually had a gig scheduled with them for New Year's Eve in Hawaii. Wow. It was Chili Peppers, Sugar Ray, and the Aquabats, I think. And it was going to be at the arena there. We hadn't done a lot of arenas back then. Unfortunately, the show got canceled, and like, you know, for the Chili Peppers, it's not a big deal. They're going to do another arena, but for us, it was like, oh my God, and it was New Year's Eve too. So that was a tough one. But they're another band that I've always loved. You know, I've got to share the stage with so many people because of I love the '90s. You know, it's a tour, it's a '90s tour that's available with a bunch of different artists on it. Whether it's Naughty by Nature, whether it's Vanilla Ice, whether it's Rob Bass, Tone Loc. I've got to really share the stage with so many wonderful people that are kind of on that low-hanging tree that are possibilities. Collective Soul. I've never had the joy and the pleasure. I know Ed very well. I haven't had the chance to go out with them yet. So, you know, Paul McCartney called and said, hey, we're looking for an opener. We'd definitely be available, Derek. So I think you kind of mentioned it. Like, I've led myself, you know, and to my detriment and to success. I've never, you know, I'm also on a tour called Pop 2K, which is O-Town, LFO, and Ryan Cabrera, which is, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I think I'm so lucky that I can sort of, and the music has touched so many people in so many genres that lets me go with the Beach Boys, the Hollywood Bowl. Lets me go, you know, play with O-Town and Ryan Cabrera. Lets me go on stage with Ozzy and the Royal Machines. You know, I've just been so blessed. So I think I just, let's just say it. I'm looking forward to see what's coming next, Eric. You know, in this wonderful, you know, Willy Wonka-esque life of mine in terms of music. I'm just curious to see who's next. So I'm going to look over there. It's going to be on stage, you know?
Well, let's just make one thing very clear, Mark. I can't sing. I don't even have a tone. But if Paul McCartney called me, I'd be up on the stage, out of tune. I don't give a fuck. I mean, I don't know if anybody would turn down Paul McCartney.
I'm with you on that one, pal.
But yeah, you were talking about, being lucky enough to blend in with all these bands. When you consider the larger picture of life, your legacy, the art that you left behind, what is your ambitions from this point forward? What are some things you'd still like to accomplish?
Well, I just hope to still be a touring entity that gets to go out there and make a living playing music, something I love to do. I love to entertain. As I'm getting older, Derek, I'm starting to get like back pains and hip pains and my feet. I have to take my feet before I go on. So like real life is starting to come into play in terms of my dream. And this is something that's scaring the shit out of me. I've seen a lot of bands that maybe a generation above starting to fall out. Huey Lewis had to stop playing because his hearing went. I'm losing a little bit of hearing in my left ear. So like, I know it sounds like a cliche thing to say, I hope just to keep touring and do what I'm doing, but I hope too. I just hope to get to do something I love, because the pandemic, going back to that bad boy, the pandemic for a while, Derek, there was talk of there was never going to be a live entertainment again.
Yeah.
Because of, the transmission. We didn't know where this thing was or where it was going to go. And I'm like, wait, I just worked my whole life to build this might be gone. Not only like something I love be gone, but something how I feel my fate and my family may be gone. So I honestly hope that my health still holds up and I can still do this, because I'm enjoying it more than ever. And that's saying a lot, bro. I am enjoying it more than ever. I think, as I can kind of see as a guy, I'm very self-effacing, but I'm also realistic. And so being realistic, I can give myself a pat in the back. So I was like every morning and fly. If you are a fan of the 90s, for the rest of your life, you're going to hear those songs.
Yeah.
They're legacy songs, iconic songs. I like to say this: Sugar Ray never became an iconic band, but the songs are iconic. And that, to me, is more than I can ever ask for. And my job now, I think the rest of my life, be a good dad, be a good husband, you take care of things at home. That's number one, of course. Be the dog, right? But maintain the legacy, live and otherwise, of Sugar Ray. There are a lot of people who worked hard to build, not just myself, obviously. I think that is my goal and my job going forward.
I battle you on the iconic part, because I'm gonna give you.
You're gonna lose, Derek.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of an ego boost here. I got off the first round that we did when Zoom was acting up on us, and I was talking to my friend. They're like, "Well, what were you up to today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I had an awesome interview with an artist that I really like." And they're like, "Oh, who's that?" Didn't even tell them to send your picture. They wrote back, "Holy fuck," So, for someone to, not even with a name, not even with a band, just to be able to know who you are, I think that makes you an icon, buddy. And I think you need to pat yourself on the back a little bit.
I will for you, Derek, and that's very sweet. Please thank your friends for me.
Of course.
I think that's all we ever wanted to do, was put a smile on people's faces. And if your friend, you set the picture and the person smiled, my job as a human being is done on this earth. So that means the world to me. And what's kind of cool, there's powers in these highlights and frosted tips. I was in an amusement park yesterday with my kids. We're on vacation right now, and people were stopping me and coming up, and it's just nothing but love. There's no hysteria. There's no weirdness. Hey, man, Mark, I really love your music, man. It's a pleasure to meet you. And if that is the toughest part of my job, that's the best part to me. You know what I mean? So I guess, Derek, I'm in a really comfortable place in my life right now. We're things were chaotic in the 90s, as they should have been. It's not adjusting to that life and where it's going to be and what you're going to do. But as I'm kind of going out to pasture here, I like the grazing. I like the view. You know what I mean? It feels good.
Excellent, man. Well, I didn't think it could get any better than the first round, but this was an absolutely phenomenal podcast episode. I just want to give the floor to you. Is there anything else that you would like to share with your fans that will be listening into this?
Yeah, I just want to do the thing a lot of bands do, but I really, from the bottom of my heart, thanks to all of you listening, for whether you didn't like Sugar Ray, you were just curious about Sugar Ray, or these songs mean a lot to you. The fact that, you took time to listen and hopefully enjoy the songs. And if you didn't enjoy them at all, but even kind of came up with another like sort of feeling, oh, I don't really like these guys. I totally get it. That is your right to do that. I'm just glad you took a chance ever to check out Sugar Ray. And if you've listened this long at the end, I want to talk to people that probably like the band because you've listened this long. Thank you so much. And you got this guy, Derek Oswald, is a hell of a human being. He got me to cry. He got me to laugh. He got me to hug him through the digital sphere. And this took a village to make this thing happen. And I can't thank you enough, Derek, for your patience and kindness and getting back to me. Wonderful questions. It was an absolute ball going down memory lane. And I look forward to seeing you in the future, my friend. Thank you to everybody listening.
Oh, absolutely. And hey, man, you were kind enough to give me a round 2. You could have just been like, fuck it. I gave him 16 minutes. That's good enough.
Never.
You know, you're just as much to blame for this being a great episode. And I just want to thank you so much for your time.
You are the best, Derek. I appreciate you, friend. I hope to see you live one day, man.
Oh, absolutely.